What's going on, guys? It's Justin here with Summit Racing, back for another one of our live streams. And we have our buddy Rutledge Wood here with us to, hang out with us for a little bit. And, we're going to talk cars and all sorts of other fun stuff. So what's going on, Rutledge? How are you today?
Oh, man, I'm good. I just was posting that we're doing this on Facebook. Then the live broadcast started on my phone. So we're already off to a great start.
Fantastic.
Man, it's so fun to get to hang with you. I know we're both into a lot of different kind of fun and funky cars. And certainly, I've been doing fun stuff with Summit for like 10 or 12 years now. And I love that for so many of us that are into so many different projects, whether it's, putting an LS3 525 horse crate motor like we did in the back of a 911, or say working on your Tundra, whatever it is. I love that Summit is a place that has so many different parts for so many different people, because it also means if you go to any of the events, you go to the Hot Rod Power Tour, Justin, whether it's the Jeep behind you or the, 30s Hot Rod Ford that you come in on, what I love is that it brings people together. That's one of the coolest things about this brand.
Yeah, and that's our goal, is to have something for everything you drive. So, for your daily driver pickup truck, your boat, your 30s hot rod, your Jeep, Toyota, even like your dirt bike, side-by-side ATV, we try to have something for everything. And, I'm right there with you. One of my favorite parts about this, is it's a car. Cars as a hobby it's a conglomerate. So we're all into something different. And, it's just fun, talking about other people about what you're into. We're cars in general. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's really my favorite part about the community is, we're all into something. They can be vastly different, but they're all the same, kind of bones, and they all do the same thing.
Absolutely. And because I think honesty is really important, Steel City Caprice, Charlie and him, hey, sorry I was running late. I was just having a technology problem, but the guys will tell you I was here on time. So don't worry. But yeah, let's talk about some fun stuff that we're working on.
So yeah, you're building a Blazer project currently, which is super. We all love those square body Blazers. Like that's
absolutely.
Those are pretty, and they've got really, really popular. Trucks have got really popular over the last couple of years. Like it was not cool to drive a pickup. Pickup truck was a work vehicle. It wasn't like a, I should say not practical, but it wasn't, a daily driver kind of vehicle for a lot of people. And now that's a lot different. And, you see a lot more trucks on the road than you did, say, 20 years ago.
Absolutely. And I know this is not how technology works, but this is my 72 K5 Blazer project. And I actually got this from a buddy of mine on Instagram, who I had met on the Hot Rod Power Tour, being out there with Summit before. And for years, he's out in Iowa, and he would get these cool projects. And man, the hard part about the more friends you make in this world that are certainly related to cars, when they get really fun projects, it's hard to not try to jump at all of them. And so I kept being like, no, this isn't the right one. This isn't the right one. Well, he ended up with this Blazer. It had spent most of its life in Colorado. He got it to Iowa. I scooped it up from him. And then, of course, first thing I do is go to Summit Racing website. So I started looking, okay, what can I do? Well, we went with the 5.3 Summit LS. So it's a 450 horse. And then I started looking around, okay, what other kind of stuff can we do? I wanted to keep that patina on the outside. Like that, to me, is what makes it so special. You're telling this story of the vehicle. So we did a 2-inch Tough Country lift, cleaned up the frame, put steel it all over it, just cleaned it up a lot. Then I did a gear vendors. That's a 4L80E 4-speed in there. Rebuilt the transfer case. We did Bear Brakes. TMI, as you know, great partner of Summit. I started looking at all the stuff they have for the Blazer. And, it's so cool when you can recreate with some style and some function some of these interiors. And I think this is the 4th TMI interior I've done. And because I do love plaid, I'll give everyone a little sneak peek. I put a bunch of pictures on Instagram of it. But the cool thing is, for me, I live in Atlanta, so the McDonough Summit Racing is not far from me. So I could have gone and picked up the black and gray in the afternoon, but I went with the good plaid. Hi, there it is. Yes. So, man, it's just, first off, the seats are killer. To have some hold and some function in there. My 68 Camaro the Tanner and I ended up having the same cars. And again, I built that a lot with Summit. We called them the Evil Twins. I put those same seats. I did the ones with headrests in that one in the 68. But man, those Pro R seats that they make are so comfortable. Changed the vehicle a ton. So now I've been kind of shaking it down. I just picked it up last week at the Kenwood Rod Shop. My friend Randy still builds all my stuff. We did a show together called Lost in Transmission in between seasons of Top Gear. And I do. It's funny. I think because I've been a partner and ambassador for Toyota for so long, I think that people thought I must only like Toyotas, but turns out I drive Toyotas every day. I build in those, I wrench on them, but turns out I love everything. So yeah, I got a weird collection of stuff. Tanner calls it an accumulation. He says I'm not a car collector, I'm an accumulator. I think that might be accurate.
I identify that hits me right in the soul. I'm the same way. I just like stuff. I like to daily GMs. I like to wheel Toyotas and Volkswagens. I like to beat that stuff up in the woods. And then I ride Austria. I like KTM dirt bikes, like Austria. So it's just I'm a Honda man through and through. But I have no brand affiliation, I should say. Same with you. I like everything. It just has to run. Anything that makes noise has my interest. So
right.
I've been on a hot air balloon kick lately. I want to buy a hot air balloon in the worst kind of ways. And my friend.
Have you been in one?
No, I've been in the Goodyear.
Why would you want to buy one if you haven't even been in one?
Dude, there's something about floating with no actual control that just puts a smile. Or home built airplanes. Like my Facebook marketplace is totally destroyed because it's all ultralights, hot air balloons, and home built airplanes. And I'm just like, this is not what I'm looking for, but it's a sign that, just like the Blues Brothers said, it's a sign we have to go.
It's a sign from God. Justin, do you have Google at the house where you are? Because you can look up the success rate and failure rate for home built aircrafts is a stat that you can find fairly easily. So I just want to encourage you to maybe just take a hot air balloon ride with a professional before you go in on it. Just food for thought.
Well, that was like when I was shopping for one. So I found it was before I went and bought my new dirt bike, and I had a pocket full of cash. I find this hot air balloon and I messaged the lady. I'm like, 10 grand. I'll come get it right now. Like I'll be on my way to your house. She wouldn't work with me on the price at all. So, so then I start researching. I'm like, how hard can this be? Do you just just take a class, like a boater's license? It is not that simple. And not only do you need a pilot's license, but then you have to get some kind of certification on top of that to operate a hot air balloon. So I was like, oh, we're going to be outlaw hot air ballooning. Like, you know how much fun that would be to land here in the Summit parking lot? Like, just show up in
That's
the
a presumption that you'll be able to land it, for the record. I agree it would be a lot of fun. You could start with the tether. There are people that will bring a hot air balloon to an event and they launch it and then they just bring it right back down. Maybe start with that,
Yeah, I suppose you have to walk before you run, but
yeah,
I like to jump. I just like to jump into things. I'm a head first kind of guy.
Right. I'm getting that feeling right now. That's fantastic. Well, here's my latest marketplace buy. I bought my old 96 Roadmaster station wagon back. The guy I sold it to, it was 2016. We built that one on Lost in Transmission. Again, Summit, a great partner for that show too. It's lowered on 18s. We did, I think, Hotchkiss suspension all the way around it. That one is the LT1. We painted it. It's like a Lamborghini. I think it's called Tiesto Gray. And then I did a barnwood wood grain down the side. So it's like a little lighter, kind of a grayish wood. And I sold it to this guy, Michael, in 2016. And it was probably 6 months ago. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to sell the car. If you want it, let me know. And I was like, oh, those cars have gone up in value. I think I do want that. And so he gave me a shot. I bought it back. It showed up last week. It only has 7,000 more miles on it. And it looked perfect. The shipping dude put it too close to another car on the trailer. So it rubbed. There's like a patch like this where it rubbed the paint off the bumper. And that one breaks your heart. She's like, this car's in such good shape outside of that. And the outside driver's door handle won't work. I think it either got like someone popped it just right and it slung the rod off, or something else broke underneath there. I got to take that apart. But Man, I'm excited to have that stuff back. But again, had I stayed off Marketplace, I wouldn't be looking for Roadmasters all the time.
Yep, that's but like I said, Marketplace is it's the bane of my existence. It's we've transitioned from I always say Craigslist by mistake all the time too. I'm like, oh yeah, shopping around on Craigslist, and then they're like, you mean Marketplace? I'm like, yes, I'm at Marketplace. But there's that's my love-hate relationship with the internet is I miss driving around and knocking on random people's doors to buy things. Now, in recent years, you meet a lot of people that aren't into that. There's nothing like getting backed off a porch with a shotgun and you're on the wrong end of it. And you just kind of, I wasn't trying to waste your time. I was just trying to give you some money, lady.
It's intense out there. What's funny is that Craigslist, I actually started with the Speed Channel in 2005. That was my way into NASCAR from a Craigslist ad. So Craigslist has always had this very special place in my heart. And it's funny, Craigslist is now, it's still really functional. I don't know if you ever get fed up of Marketplace and you go back to Craigslist. It's funny because in some ways it's better, even though it's a worse interface on every way. Like it's the most antiquated thing on the internet, but sometimes you can just find ones kind of cut to the chase. I see Tom, fellow.
I just saw that. You're Auto Trader years old, Tom. I appreciate that.
Amen,
Buying
brother.
stuff out of the newspaper was still so much fun.
Oh yeah, we had. I'm trying to remember. We had a thing called the Atlanta Advertiser, and it was just classified stacked up. Now sometimes there was like a little bit of an order to it, but also people would just like throw a frisbee or a dart at it and be like, "I'm going to put my car ad in the music equipment." And so sometimes you'd see something that, it's a band van or whatever it was. But there's so many good ways. I ended up, when the internet forums really took off, we had like Import Lounge, Import Atlanta. Then there was another one. I can't remember the other big one. But like I showed up one day and they had made me a moderator. And I was like, I didn't want to be a moderator. And they're like, no, you were the guy that would kindly tell people. Like they'd go to list something and I'd be like, hey, just heads up, if you're saying for sale, 94 Toyota Supra, it's really helpful to everyone else if we know like how many miles are on it. Is it running? Is it a manual or automatic? Like I would just be like, hey, could you please help me help you?
Yes.
And so they made me a moderator, but turns out no one wanted to be a moderator because then you feel like you got to like bust up the nerds. But the Auto Trader, oh man, every week it would come out and you'd get to look at those pictures. It was funny because it was so cheap and they had to have been making so much money. It's still a great website for the record if you're looking for something, but that interface was so awesome because you could dream about it. And I don't know about you, like Justin, you grew up, are you in Ohio?
Yeah. So I'm born and bred here. I live about, I grew up about 25 minutes south here of the Summit store. So this was, this was like an event, it's fun to sell stuff to people out of state because they're like, oh, we're going to go to Summit Racing after this. And I'm just like, it's worth it. Go up there.
Absolutely.
I always
I don't know, like were your summers like I mowed lawns so I could have money to buy the Auto Trader so I could think about having enough lawns to be mowed to then afford the $400 car, whatever I was looking at. Like what were your early jobs that you were doing so you could try to stack a little cash for one of these things?
So growing up, my dad owned a gutter company. So I spent, there was a lot of my earlier youth, helping my dad out doing that kind of stuff. But then same deal. It was all about side hustles. So mowing grass. Once I got, started wrenching around probably like that for like 14, 15, 16-year-old age, it was fixing other people's stuff. So it was, I needed money for working on other people's stuff to fix my own daily driver because, at that time, it was a daily race car. I should say race truck. It's always kind of a fun. I had this two-wheel drive Dodge Dakota, and
was that the V6 or V8?
V6. It was so. My dad got to pick it out. That was the stipulation. He's like, I'll help you get a vehicle, but if I'm going to be giving you some money, I get to pick what it is.
Sure.
So, my dad, I come home from school one day and there's a 2-wheel drive Dodge Dakota in the driveway. And I'm like, oh, whose jalopy is this? And my dad's like, these are your new wheels. And he's like, it's got a bed. You can haul your 4-wheeler, but it's not 4-wheel drive. So you don't get yourself into any situations.
Smart move.
So little did my dad know that I know that Baja trucks are 2-wheel drive.
Oh, sure.
It's all about, you just have to hit everything with enough speed and then you will get through it. But that was the same deal. It was just like, I would, beat the snot out of the thing. Something epic would break. And it was like, well, I need to do some tune-ups or change oil or ball joints. So I have money to fix my own stuff to drive places. I didn't care what job I was doing. I would go, throw hay, dig holes, put a fence in just to get some cash. I'm sure you're the same way.
Absolutely. And now keep in mind, was this one of the super square body Dakotas?
Oh no, this was like that it was an 04. So that round early it was actually, I commend my father because it was actually a really nice, it had RT wheels on it.
That was to say, your dad's crazy. That's too nice to have handed you that truck at that age.
Yep. I laugh about it now. I still say I've owned all sorts of cool stuff. And I'm like, that's still my favorite vehicle I've ever had. It had a ridiculous sound system in it. So you could, I chopped the exhaust off it and put I got my hands on an HKS fart can.
And there we go.
It was dialed. It was my favorite.
It was great. What I love is that we've come so full circle in car stuff now. I swear the same dudes that have those 8 to 10-inch cans on their exhaust now and those gigantic diesels that sound like a dump truck. For the record, there was a time when driving a dump truck wasn't that cool. And now every bro with a diesel sounds like a dump truck. And I'm like, all right, it's fine. But when you see one and it's sitting at idle and I can hear the blades of the turbine spinning, I'm like, guys, that's too loud for y'all. It's too loud for me. And then I think, were they the ones that were making fun of us when we started messing with imports and we all had the little, some of them we called it the fart can, the Bumblebee. Were they the same ones making fun of CRXs running a 5-inch tip on the back of an exhaust and now they've got a coffee can for an exhaust?
You can fit your head. Now, I will say, as I got a little bit older, I became what we refer to as belt buckle kids, big diesel truck. You got to tuck your pants in your boots. Like I said, it was a fad. It was a thing. I embraced it. I'm just as guilty. But like you said, it's the guys, that were making fun of the import guys are now putting ridiculous exhaust on their diesel trucks. And, it's when you can hear it and not see it, that's when it's a problem.
That's a lot. Can I jump over Mark Jackson? What's up, Mark? Mark asks if I'm going on the power tour. I really hope so. Past 2 years, I brought my friends from Toyota Racing to be a part of it because so many of them are gearheads too. And I took my Supra out there last year. And it's funny because a lot of people were mildly offended that I would bring a Toyota Supra on the Hot Rod Power Tour. And then they saw how fast it was. And they're like, okay, yeah, no, I buy that. That totally makes sense. It's starting in Atlanta, which is super fun. So I think if nothing else, I will definitely be in Atlanta. I might do day 2. It kind of depends. I've always tried to get my family to go, and they've never really been that stoked about it. But with the Blazer, I think I got a shot at it. So I know I want to have the Blazer at Atlanta Motor Speedway with Summit day 1, so many people can come and see it. I keep trying to find a good Saturday that I can throw a mini pop-up because I'd love, Justin, when you work on something this much, I really want people to be able to see it and get up close in it. But the problem is I just took a new job, which is really awesome. And it's funny because I can't tell you a ton about it, except that everyone on this will love it. And it's going to be a new primetime show for NBC, but I have to go to the UK for the next 2 months to shoot it. So that really cuts out on that time. But long story short, yes, I'll be on at least part of the Power Tour, Mark. And I want everybody to get to see the Blazer up close. So we got to do that. Scott, what's up? Now, Justin, I don't want to leave this hanging. First off, that 04, man, that RT of that truck is still, dude, the Dakotas are really underrated for a lot of things. So I just want to give credit. It's stock. Those wheels, those split 5s, it was just a killer setup, right?
Chef's kiss. And they came in so many cool colors.
Yes.
Actually, one of my buddies, I'm going to shout you out, Mitch. Mitch had a yellow RT V8 like Dakota, and the thing was gorgeous. It was beautiful. I loved it so much.
They're
And
great.
no, those Dodge, like I know there's a lot of Dodge haters out there, and I'm like I said, I'm an early body style guy, so I like those that 94 to 02. Like,
yes. So that, for the record, that's my favorite, because the Shelby convertible, like, first off, the fact that any OEM ever made a convertible pickup that was functional, there was a reason no one else did it, because they couldn't look other people in the eye and be like, we made a convertible pickup. You're going to love it. Like, no one else could do that. But turns out they were awesome. They're still cool. They're hard to find. I've seen a couple that were a pretty decent deal, but you and I know, if you don't find one that is running and driving and functional, dude, the amount of money that you spend trying to fix it to just be a crappy car is so much more than people can possibly comprehend. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I drive by, like, I see stuff like that all the time. Like, so my one buddy Logan, his dad has one of those Audi stainless steel, the 5-cylinder, like the Quattro wagon, and it's parked like off in the weed. Like, Gary, his dad, drove it for a long time, and they parked it in the weeds. Something I think went wrong with the motor, and every time I drive by his house, I'm just like, I want it to sit in my yard. And then I like think about like what it takes to get one of those cars running, and like just all the big Volkswagen lover and big Audi lover, but the nonsense they got going on under there, it's it's a little bit above me.
What makes me laugh is, I don't know about you, my dad does this, and I realize I do it with cars, but like, my dad's the kind of guy who, like, if something's for sale for $10, he'll look for one that's $5, but it needs $3 worth of work, so he can feel like you and I, we probably do that same thing with cars. Like, I'll find one and be like, well, it's a pretty good deal. Yes. Yeah. The motor let go, but here's the thing, we can just make it a little bit better. And then you're like, yeah, we'll put a new motor. And then you're like, well, I mean, you have to upgrade the transmission too to match the motor. Yeah, obviously. Well, then, also the rear end won't hold that power. And you're like, yeah, or that running driving one was actually only $1,500 more. But I don't know why I'm such a sucker for that. That's what's got me from like the marketplace deals. I'll chase a deal. I'll chase a $500 car for a week if I have to. And then you get it and you're like, oh, it's a $300 car all day. What was I thinking? Like,
yeah. I am, that's one of the biggest questions. I am the advocate of driving $500 vehicles. Like, as my mother likes to say, my morals are really wild, because I go and take I have a brand new fancy dirt bike, because you have to have something nice. And I put it in the back of my $500 pickup truck with a smile on my face. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to, I was like, if the truck breaks down, you just unload the bike and you ride it the rest of the way.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I mean, no, there's nothing bad at all. Can I say hey to John, who's from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, Canada?
Oh, we love it. We love those Canadian folks up there. Canada's. There's actually, have you seen, there's a guy in Canada right now riding an ATC 3-wheeler from one coast. He started all the way at the left. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I don't know what British Columbia. My bad. I'm not up on my Canadian provinces.
Love it.
So started all the way at the left and is riding all the way to the right. And
that's impressive.
I know he got caught up. I believe it was in it's the one that starts with an O. My bad, guys. But got caught up there somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And he's making his way across the rest of the way. But I follow him on TikTok. It's just kind of wild. Like, so we said Canada, and I had to bring that up. But to ride, and it's cold there, so to ride an 80s Honda trike all the way across is Ontario. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you so much. Yes, Ontario. Sorry, guys. I would not.
The one with the O?
I would not be a good Canadian citizen.
That's first off, that's so hardcore. Second, John, I hope you watched Letterkenny or Shoresy. Those are my favorite Canadian shows out there.
Canadian sitcoms, or that's between that and Trailer Park Boys. I can just giggle and giggle. Shoresy was, like I said, that show is just fantastic. I love that very much. We got Mark Jackson coming at us with the Canada. Heck yeah, Mark.
Oh, that's right. Scott asked if I still have my purple Fundra. So I built, also with Summit, I built a supercharged 2016 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. Now, I built a 4-wheel drive that I lowered, and I realized why some people have an issue with that. But the reason I got the idea Tanner Fausta I did Top Gear with, and y'all know Adam Farrar too. So Tanner used to be sponsored by Toyota, and when he was, he had a Magnuson supercharged Tundra, and he put it in 4-wheel drive high once, and we left a traffic light in LA, and all 4 tires were smoking, and I was like, well, this is what I want. So it took me a few years, but I built this purple one we called the Fundra, and it had a wide body Honey D kit. And we wrapped it first to look like Ivan Stewart's Iron Man truck. And I love that. We took it on the power tour. Then Magnuson, we sent it out there. They supercharged it. Love them. They make such cool stuff. Brought it back and then changed some wheels, had rotiforms on there, took it on the Hot Rod Power Tour. And I love that thing. But during the pandemic, somebody asked if they could buy it during 2020. And it was one of those weird times where a lot of us were like, I don't know if I'll ever work again. If someone wants to buy something, everything's for sale. I got kids. So I sold it. And then it was one of those weird things where I told the guy, because I had it specialty tuned, you had to like hold traction control down for like 5 seconds and take it off. Then you put it again for another 5 seconds. It would turn everything off. And it was a rocket ship. However, you know, Justin, sometimes your friends might have like a piggyback to right? There are certain procedures, right? Like you gotta follow the list of things. Well, this cat that I sold it to, he thought that was stupid. And I was like, you got to do it every time. So he basically blew it up on the way home, because the truck, if you didn't do that, would go into this like panic threshold, and it would suddenly cut fuel to half the cylinders. So it sounds like you're blowing it up. Well, I have to believe that if you're hard enough on the accelerator trying to get that back to Chicago or wherever, I think the dude grenaded it. And then it's this weird dance where like I'm in a place where I can't sell anything because people act like a jerk if I do, because they either act like, well, I shouldn't pay you anything because you work in the industry. I'm like, y'all, I paid for this stuff. I'm just trying to buy another crappy thing to fix up. So it was one of these weird dances where I tried to get him a motor, and then I don't know if they ever put it. So I don't actually know what happened to it, but I saw it recently. It seems like it's doing well. I would bet good money it's still in the original engine, and I got suckered to giving him money back. But that's just me, you know. You got to choose your battles.
You win some and you lose some. It's I've bought a lot of car, like my I have a 98 Civic. I love the car. The thing is just, it was cherry. It was a grandma car when I got it. Like it got drove to the grocery store, and that was it. But it was a non-runner, so she was cheap. And it was show up, put a distributor in it, start it, and then drive it home. And like you feel bad. You're like, it was a $50 fix, and you know.
Right.
But that's all the part about the deals. Like that's how you get deals.
Did you save the HKS can from that Dakota to put on this Civic? Because that would really come in handy.
Dude, that is full circle. That's actually a pretty good idea. I was actually just complaining about the Civic because the exhaust got ripped off it.
Sure.
So I jabronied it back on the car. I let my mother drive the Civic because I love her. She was like, I think I was borrowing her car, and I was like, oh, you can drive my beautiful 1998 Honda Civic. She drives it one day, rips the exhaust all the way off it, and then is, calling me, saying some very choice words. We refer to my mom as J-Lo. Bless that woman's heart.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah, I appreciate her not giving up on me, because I would have just, chucked the towel in a long time ago. But I was just complaining because I ripped the exhaust, so I won't drive it because it's loud. I'm like, I can't. 15-year-old me want to cut it off the day I got it. 28-year-old me is like, this is too loud. It needs an exhaust. I want to enjoy my, put my driving gloves on, put a little Barry Manilow on the radio, and just have a nice cruise to work.
There's a funny transition where I feel like anyone watching this or listening knows, like, there's that point where you're like, all right, it needs a really loud stereo and a super loud exhaust. And then you're like, okay, well, it needs a decent stereo, still needs a good exhaust. And one day you're like, do you have a high flow exhaust that's not that loud? And then MagnaFlow is like, we got you, bro. No drone technology. We'll make anything you want. We'll get you power, but it's not going to make your ears bleed. And there used to be this cat that lived near us that had straight pipes on a Z71. And it, to me, it sounded so bad that I was like, number one, I know he's losing power. Like there was no back pressure, was all jacked up. Everything about it just sounded so bad. And I thought, I'm concerned as a dad for your ears. And I kind of wanted to be like, hey man, I have some mufflers that came off another project. Do you want something that's going to like sound good? And then I was like, I can't do that. Man, I'm like leading the horse to water. Then I'm going to hold its head under to take a drink. I can't.
Yes.
Can't do that.
I had a neighbor buy me a muffler in high school and set it on my parents' porch. And, I came home and there's just a thrush muffler sitting there, and it's just like, okay, I get it. Or do you remember I got brand new glass packs for Christmas one year, and I was so excited. And it takes a while to burn all the stuff out of the glass pack. So then I'm like on the back porch, and this doesn't sound very safe, and I would never do this now. But like I'm pouring like gasoline inside the glass packs and lighting them on fire to
you tried to accelerate the process yourself.
Because as we'd like to say, I was like, it has to have that hillbilly crackle. It just you got to get that diesel.
Wow, Justin, we would have been friends in high school. I'll tell you right now, that would have been. Gosh, isn't that funny when you hear like there's towns where people are like, they're stealing catalytic converters. Meanwhile, you and I know people are like, steal them? Hell, I took that off years ago. You're like, oh gosh.
Like you're
What's happening?
It's wild. The world, it's wild how the world works now. But same deal. It's like, it's funny how we go from driving loud, obnoxious, very identifiable vehicles to like, I need something that nobody knows. You buy something, you're like, I'm not telling anybody I bought this. So I have like the spy car is what we refer to them as. But it's the same, just like you were saying, same deal. I have blessed this kid's heart in my hometown. He has a Subaru, and I don't know where the exhaust is cut off on it, but it's non-existent. And it pops and cracks and does. And I just want to help you put a full exhaust on your car, buddy. Put a muffler. Right. It'd sound better with a muffler. I'm not hating. I'm a car guy. I like loud stuff, but I don't like loud stuff at 5:30 in the morning.
That's fair. Can I say hi to Charlie? He said that my family and I met Rutledge, New Hampshire when they were filming Top Gear, and they were very kind to my daughter. Great experience. What's up, Charlie? Hey, how's it going? I wonder, she's in college now and works for a car museum. That doesn't make me feel old at all to think that I met your daughter when she was a child. Now she's in college. That was seamless. I'm just kidding. No, it's funny. I started doing NASCAR in 2015 for the Speed Channel, and which is owned by Fox. So I worked for Fox for 10 years, and Top Gear found me doing that from a race fan that loaded this video onto YouTube illegally. That I interviewed John Schneider from the Dukes of Hazzard while riding around Atlanta Motor Speedway in a Dodge Charger, paying up to look like the General Lee. We ended up doing Top Gear. And, the people that I met from that, it's just been such a cool thing, because sometimes it was like, it might be a husband and wife watching Top Gear, and the wife would watch because she realized it's just about three idiots. Turns out there's some cars in there too. It's really just about these three idiots on adventures. And now so many of those people's kids know me from doing Floor is Lava on Netflix or Hyperdrive, any of the other things I've done over there. It's just a really funny thing. I hosted an electric car race in my daughter's elementary school this morning. It's like the 5th or 6th year in a row I've done it. And the amount of kids that know me from Floor is Lava is, it's like a 97%, right? Every kid there knows it. And then someone's like, how do you know so much about cars? And I kind of laughed. I was like, that's what I do. Like, that's funny. Kind of built a career in it. Yeah.
Okay. And that's like the wild part. And I always kind of like, it's a pinch me thing where I'm like, when you get to make your hobby your everyday job, and we're truly blessed individuals to, I get to wake up and go do car stuff every day. And, if you would have told 18-year-old me that was just a tech, just slaving away, that was going to, 10 years from now, you're going to be making YouTube videos and doing this stuff for a really cool company like Summit, I would have told you were crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's fun, and the whole getting the kids thing involved, like, I appreciate, like, I like that, like when I see, it's those 15, 16-year-olds, doing the same thing we were doing, buying piece of junk vehicles, and you're, mowing grass, investing money, getting into it, and that's what's keeping the hobby alive. So I try to spread that love as much as I can. You're
doing a great job with it, man. You really are. Scott asked, hey, I heard you were thinking about doing a giveaway with the Jeep. I built a Jeep. I got a ton of stuff from Summit on that one. It was a junkyard Wrangler that I pulled out. It had been in my buddy's junkyard for like 10 years. And man, was it gross. They also, we found some narcotics in the console that I had to call my friends that are police officers to come get. Dude, it was the weirdest. I looked and I was like, I don't think I want to touch this. I'm going to call the cops. So it was really, really fun. But yeah, there was a time period where I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I could give this away? And then I got to a place where I looked in, like, how do you do that? Because there's a legal side. Anytime when you see like my buddy Cletus who does giveaways or anybody else, you know, some of the it's an interesting dance, right? Sometimes people do it and it seems like totally cool and on the up and up. And then there's other times when you're like, this just something feels weird here. And I didn't want to get caught in that space at all. And I didn't, you know, if I give something away, number one, I have to make sure it's safe enough to give away. I started to do that with this Datsun 510 and then I got underneath it and I was like, no, I need to sell this to someone who knows what this is. There's no gray area. Like, I don't want a 16-year-old driving this thing around. So I very much want to do some fun giveaways. It's just a weird thing where you have to make sure that it's not a total piece of garbage.
Yep.
Number one. And number two, like, can I do it in a way that's fair and everybody has a shot and whatever? And so that's I'm just so lucky to get to play with cars every day and go have fun with my friends. I also don't ever want that to be something that's a detractor. So I really I want to build something for the purpose and with friends and sponsors that say, yes, let's build something to give away that will make someone's life better. Not like to you and I, it'd be great, but we don't want to burden, we don't want to burden someone that isn't Justin or I with some big hunk of junk. So yes, Scott, I really appreciate that support. Thank you for following. I hope we get to do that.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, me driving something that's not necessarily in the greatest operating condition down the road is one thing. I would never put somebody else behind. Like, there's things where I never let somebody else drive this. Like, this is a death trap. Like, but that's my form of gambling. Like, I joke all the time. Like, I'm not into playing with cards. I want to go do fun stuff in the garage. It's, morally questionable to some individuals.
Right. Absolutely. There's that line. There's the line between silly and stupid is a thin one. We all want to make sure we're on the right side of that. Alan asked if I'm going to stop by one of the Monday night cruises at Summit in McDonough. Yes, absolutely. Assuming it is post-April because I'll be gone for a little while. But, man, I'd love for you to get to come check out the Blazer and get to show it off there. My friends at Summit, I feel like they have my poster on the wall because I'm such a frequent traveler to McDonough, which is a great time. So, yeah, hopefully I can get down there.
So you said you're in Georgia. You're originally in Alabama.
Correct. Grew up in Birmingham, and then we moved over here when I was 15 and been here ever since. So, yeah, man, when they broke ground for the McDonough Summit Racing, I was like, oh, how lucky have I gotten? It's close to the interstate. It's less than an hour away. And I've done that thing where you're like, what time is it? Can we make it? Yeah. Yep. Like we are so fortunate for that. But also, let's be honest, the shipping's incredibly fast. So I've always loved it any way you cut it. Yeah, it is nice that, you can order the stuff. If you order it, we like to say before 9 o'clock, it's going to ship the same day. And 99% of situations that does. And, you have it. We have 4 stores around the United States. So you're going to have it within a couple of days. Like it's really convenient. That's it is fun. Like I said, these stores are kind of a destination for people, which I always appreciate. It's if you guys are ever even within an hour or a couple hours, you can swing by on a vacation and check out a Summit store. I highly recommend it. It's all 4 locations are beautiful. There's always cool stuff on the turntables in the front of the store. Like it's a destination. It's an experience. Absolutely. They're like the Buc-ee's of the automotive parts world. If you've not been to a Buc-ee's, I heard about Wally's this weekend, which I guess is a American Vacation themed Wally World sort of thing. I think that's awesome. I'm very interested in that. That's one of the cool parts. So we have the Christmas Story House up in Cleveland, like an hour. Oh yeah. So
that's like kind of I have a December birthday, so that's kind of like one of the fun things. You go up there and you can walk through the house, see all the cool memorabilia. It's been for sale for a little bit. I can't believe no one's bought it yet. If I had a bucket of money, I would be living in the Christmas Story house. That would be my goal.
Absolutely. Think of the tours that you could give, but just like a knock on the door and I'll show you the house for $20, like zero prep tour. That's what I would take.
Well, we have another guy like by us that decorates his house, like the Griswold house, does all the lights, parks a junky RV out in front of the house, like does the full potatoes. I love stuff like that. That's fun houses like that, and those little brown signs you see on the highway, like world's largest ball of yarn, and that like I see one of those, I'm going. Like,
did you know? Here's a little trivia. Did you know in the U.S. there are 2 of the world's largest ball of twine, but there is one defining characteristic that's different?
Tell me more.
So I know, right? Yes, I'm interested. So apparently one has a cover over it, like a lean-to shed roof, and the other does not. So they're like, we're the world's largest non-enclosed ball of twine. And the other's like, we're the world's largest ball of twine with a roof. Like, they're awesome. So different. But yeah, that stuff happens. Can I answer another question? Josh Jones is over there. What's up, Josh? He asked, did I ever finish the Corolla for my daughter? What color did you choose? Great question. Yes. It's funny because I ordered the new GR Corolla, which will hopefully be here in a couple months. So it's the all-wheel drive, 300 horsepower, like basically rally car. So my Corolla hatchback that I had, it was a former SEMA project for Toyota. And I think they gave 5 of them to these different tuner shops. And so this one was kind of built as like a Hachi, like an AE86 tribute car. Crazy loud exhaust. It was dumped on the ground. It was like a flat gray, like almost primer gray wrap. And so I let my daughter choose a bunch of different colors and then stuff that she liked, wheels, whatever. So at one point I lifted it, put knobby tires on there and a big like roof rack. It was like kind of like the guy with the Subaru in your town. I was trying to do something fun. But then when I realized the GR is all-wheel drive and actually would be great off-road, I went, oh, okay. So I will take that stuff off. I let fans on my Instagram choose which way we went. So they ended up going with, it's like a cool metallic rose gold. The roof is still black. It's got cast rotiforms on there, which look great. Continental tires. Magnaflow made me a custom exhaust with this cool Corolla shop that's in Atlanta on the north side of town. I can't think of their name right now, but they're awesome. They're on my Instagram. And then we changed the front end to look like a different model Corolla. The hatchback has like a unique one, kind of like for Civic nerds like us, the old like EG sedan bumpers were different than the coupe bumpers. It's kind of like that. So I changed
it's those subtle little details that no one ever notices. And you're just like, well, this is Volkswagens are the same way. It's,
yes.
It's those little odds and ends. Excuse me. It's kind
big
of
bumper,
like
small bumper. You remember?
Yeah, you get those guys where it was like, well, with this particular build sheet, this car is one of one or one of 7. I enjoy that. I kind of poke fun at it a little bit, but it's I would envy someone that got to order. I owned a '78 Grand Marquis for a while. Big block car was we called it Nessie. It was seafoam green. It was gorgeous. I loved the thing.
Was it named after Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster?
It had a small correlation, yes.
I'm so glad.
But,
sorry, go ahead.
That I got it from the original owner, and it was cool. They ordered every option except a passenger side mirror and a cassette player. So it had a big block. It had the crazy green leather interior, which we only know what they had to feed the cows to make them that color. But it had all these crazy, like I said, options. You're like, this thing is just laid out. And so I just had to think about this, at the time she wasn't a little old lady, but just sitting there checking all the boxes.
Right.
Like, and it's just same with that. I don't know if you've seen that Haggerty video, that cool Hemi Challenger, like 4-speed. It has an alligator top on it.
Yep.
But same deal, like ordering a car like that then that was just with these couple high-end options, it turns a thing into something truly unique. And I don't know, I think it's kind of sad that that's went away and you don't get to do that much anymore.
I know. And I didn't know until I owned a 70 Dodge Charger that I got from my friend Kyle Petty. It was his car in high school. He bought it from his uncle. And Kyle had it, sold it when he got married, bought it back like 20 something years later. His son Austin ended up with it. Austin fixed up. It was a 383 with a 4-speed pistol grip car. So fun. I got the car, and it was probably 6 years ago. Well, I sent it to Ride Tech to help them get some help from them on the suspension because I didn't know where to start. Like, Mopars, I realized like we kind of characterize Mopar people as being like a little bit different because they're pretty intense. They really love their stuff. Well, the reason is like there were less Mopars made. If you look at Camaro or Mustang or anything else, whatever the equivalent is, there were less of them made. So number one, there was less out there. That meant there was less parts, less people customizing. So the people that really loved them were just like so enamored that really became their thing, right? The best part for me of that car is they called and said, hey, who lowered this thing? And I was like, oh, a 14-year-old named Kyle Petty in 1978 or whatever it was, 676. And they're like, it looks like an old race car underneath here. And I was like, oh no, it is, because Richard Petty never threw anything out. They just used old stuff from the race cars on this car. And he's like, yeah, dude, this car, like looking at the front end, it really was set up like a stock car. And I was like, oh, dude, pull the gear out of the rear end. Kyle said that he was racing someone once on a highway before they opened it. And this was in like Level Cross. I can't remember what the name of the highway was. It's going toward Ashboro, I think. And Kyle said they're racing. This was before they opened the highway. And this guy's in a Trans Am and thinks he's got him. And Kyle smiles and pulls. They're doing 110 or something. And Kyle goes from third gear to fourth gear and left the dude. And he's like, yeah, dude, we just had the King's old stuff in here. Was a cup gear, like wherever. And I went, wow, that's where all the cool Mopar stuff went. Okay, there it is.
Yep, it's all, and like just like you said, I feel for the Mopar guys because of the less. So they're almost all they're all unibody cars. So time is not kind to them, unfortunately.
Right.
But if you crash, if you crash one of those cars, they bend in weird ways because of the torsion bars, and they're kind of they're thin from the factory. And not a lot of parts. Like they only built, it's a mind-blowing number. So 426 Hemis, there's only I think 13 or 14, like it's like 13 or 14,000 ever built. And think about how many of those got blown up, on drag, in the birth of drag racing, essentially. And so those guys, if you're restoring a numbers matching high dollar Mopar car, you're gonna spend some money.
Absolutely. So, my buddy Brian from Brian's Paint and Body down here by me. Is a huge Mopar guy. He goes to all the shows. Like he's always got his stuff for sale, whatever. But every time he goes to the show, he ends up bringing more stuff home than he started with.
I identify with that problem.
You understand.
I get rid of one thing so I can get two more is kind of,
yeah.
I always joke if something ever unfortunately happened to me, if you clean up all the stuff around my parents' property, you probably get $7-8 grand worth of scrap. If you took the time, I tell my friends, just help my mom catalog this stuff. She can retire. There's a couple $100,000 here.
Right. It's just crazy that's, and I think that's also part of what will keep you and I still knocking on doors and leaving notes on cars. There's so many stories to me. And that's what I think every time I walk around a junkyard. I think, man, who owned this? How did this car get here? What kind of life did it have? And I think that story for me, that's one of those things that that's why I love Patina so much. It tells this story of where this thing has been and the history of it. And that's one of those things that I always kind of come back to is when you see a Superbird in incredible shape, man, it makes your heart really happy. But when I was at the Indy 500 and I saw the Winged Warriors Club was having a meeting at the Mug and Bun, and I saw this old Superbird, the top's hanging off like it was vinyl top. It's ragged out. It looks like the car from Joe Dirt, and I couldn't look away. Like that's a car that I would own today, and I wouldn't touch a thing. I'd make sure the brakes work, make sure everything's healthy, and I would drive the absolute crap out of it because that to me is what makes it so special,
So that's kind of like was our big joke at SEMA. I'm not sure if you attended or not, but outside the West Hall, they line up all those like you have all those trucks outside, and you have brand new 1-ton diesel trucks, and it's lifted, and it's got all this crazy suspension underneath it, and there's the whole row of them. Sitting on the sidewalk in front of the building was a minty all stock Grand Wagoneer. And I could stare at the trucks I had no interest in, or like, the cool Porsches and stuff sitting outside. You're like, I have no desire to look at that. I want to look at this stock Wagoneer sitting on the sidewalk because this is cool.
Yeah. Now was that the same one? I think there was one there that had a trail. What was the Hawk? What do they call that one?
Trailhawk.
Yeah, there was one. Wait,
or
is that it?
Trackhawk.
No, Trackhawk. There's one that someone stuffed a Trackhawk setup underneath, but it still looks like an original.
Yeah, I know it was white. It was sitting out like on the sidewalk. The hood wasn't open or anything, but the thing was just gorgeous. Like that's the kind of stuff or like you said, patina, rusty stuff. Like after I buy a vehicle and I get it home and I'm like cleaning it out, the stuff you find, like you were saying, you found something very interesting, but the air fresheners or the receipts or sorry, you pop the back seat out of it and you're cleaning out. Like think about all the cool stuff. If the car could talk, the stories it could tell.
It'd be amazing, man. It would absolutely be amazing.
Yeah. And so where, besides going and filming this, you said you have a new project you're going to be working on. Do you have anything else? You're building the Blazer. Do you still have the panel van?
I sold the very first one that I built that people would have seen on Lost in Transmission that I built with Summit. I sold that one. And then I think it was Jim that works at the home office at Summit had one that is from the Beaver Park Marina. I bought that from him, and then I built it. It's got a Charger SRT8 swap underneath there, custom built S10 frame that we cut and stretched and everything. That was built to Kenwood Rod Shop. Still have it. I love it. I thought about selling it, but man, it just puts a smile on my face every time I drive it. And then I traded that Jeep that we were talking about earlier to Randy from Kenwood for a 56 Ford F100 project that I will eventually get to. Do some fun stuff with it. I mean, the problem is the Ring brothers keep making stuff that's so cool. I can't process it. So I'm like, man, maybe I don't need fenders, right?
I wish I could operate on that. Like seeing some of the cool so when it comes to garage work, that's where I fall short compared to like my dad or like my grandfather. It was, I have to write something down and put it on a piece of paper, and then it's going to take me 3 times the amount of material to build it. They have that ability to just be like, oh, I have this picture in my head and I'm going to make it out of this flat piece of steel. And it's going to be, I was building a switch box for one of my Volkswagen rails. And I had went 0 for 2. And then my dad just comes out in the garage and he goes, oh, this will be great. And 20 minutes later, I have this beautiful like switch box. And I'm just like, how do you do that?
Isn't that amazing?
That's one, I envy that skill so much. It's, I'm really good at, wasting material though. My scrap bin is just absolutely,
You and me both. It turns out we got to make a lot of scrap to get as good at something like that. Like your pops is like, that's a beautiful thing, man. I'm trying to think before I got to run, cause I have another fun call. I get to go prep for all this new show.
Man, we buzzed through that hour fast. That was a good one.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the great questions. I think the Roadmaster, here's the tough thing. This Roadmaster wagon that I just got back, the 96, my buddy Dax Shepard has what I think is the greatest Roadmaster out there right now. His has an LSA in there and supercharged. I drove it and I told him he needed to put in a gearbox like what's in the CTSV wagon that I have. I think he needs something like that. It needed a little bit faster shifting. The problem is that's going to mess with my head and it'll make me want to make mine fast. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But I also have a mystery car coming from Japan that at some point I will share pictures of. You'll enjoy it. It'll be a great.
I've been looking at Japanese mini trucks lately. That has been a
Duncan Imports. I was talking to Gary last night over email. There's also
$6,500. That's not that bad. You're just like
great.
I can drive. I was like, Think about all the places I could drive this.
Absolutely. You can fit it anywhere. Drive it on a golf course. But Gary's an awesome one. There's a ton of great ones out there. Japanese Classics is another great one. But Gary Duncan in Christiansburg, Virginia is an awesome guy. He's got some incredible stuff. And that's just, again, if you're on a road trip, go to Summit, go by Gary's place, go check out some cool stuff. But yeah, hopefully everybody can keep up with me on Instagram and on Facebook. And you'll get to see more fun stuff. But yeah, thank you. Big thanks, Justin, for having me, and Summit for all the great things we get to do together. I'm so excited for everyone to get to see the Blazer. And I'm going to shoot a big reveal video of it this weekend that I'll post sometime while I'm in the UK, and then we'll get showed off to people at McDonough sometime soon.
Heck yeah, sounds good. Well, I appreciate for you coming on, Rutledge. And, we just shot shop the whole time, so that's a lot of fun. And I really appreciate that. So we can't wait to see what you have coming up. Like I said, make sure to follow along on his channels, guys, and follow along here on summitracing.com and our YouTube, Instagram. Oh, it looks like I had one last comment come through here for Carmen. Can we see? Please say hi to my son Carter.
Hi, Carter.
Yeah.
Carter, what's up, buddy? Thanks for watching.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We got to get those young guys involved. So
Absolutely.
Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have fun, make good choices, and don't talk to strangers. We'll see you guys later.